about a quarter of our population at any one time is suffering from some kind of mood disorder.
It's only now that I've learnt to manage that I'm allowed to have a bad day.
Those that are in charge of this legislation need to learn some cultural context. This is something that's part of people's lives. It's actually been part of people's lives for tens of thousands of years.
So welcome along, guys, to another Mental Hunts podcast. In this episode we're sitting down with Kathryn Wright, who's a registered counsellor based in Te Anau, South Island. We're going to dive into the topics around mental health and the barriers to seeking help for firearms licence holders, and also the barriers that rural communities have and the problems that they face. So we really hope you get something out of this and you get some tools to potentially support yourself and your loved ones. Well, I just want to welcome you along, Kathryn Wright, counsellor from Te Anau, a rural counsellor. Welcome to our podcast. Thank you so much for taking the big journey up from Te Anau to see us today.
You're welcome.
Can you just introduce yourself and give those listening a bit of an idea of your background in mental health and what your relationship is with firearms and the rural community, and why the rural community is such a big passion to you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a pretty big answer to a pretty big question, I guess, but if we go right back to the very beginning, I grew up in Te Anau, and my father was, and still is, I guess, one of the aviation venison pioneers in the area. So he worked for Tim Wallace from about the early 70s. We grew up with that kind of surreal lifestyle, I guess, where there were helicopters, there was hunting, there was a lot of blood, a lot of deer getting caught, huge money getting made, like here's $100, go to the shop type situation. Young guys just burning their washing and buying new Levi's instead of washing them. But along with that came a lot of tragedy. So I guess all through my upbringing, I experienced a lot of loss, a lot of accidents, a lot of tragedy. Te Anau is a pretty small town. It's just under 3,000 right now, and it hasn't actually grown a lot in a long time. So if you've ever been up to Lingwood Cemetery in Te Anau, it's well worth a look, but there's a lot of young men up there that lost their lives in the venison recovery industry. Testament to that is the amount of headstones with deer, schist stone from the national park, things like that. So a lot of people that I knew well were basically gone in a heartbeat, and sometimes multiple at a time.
A lot of grief.
Yes, absolutely. So as a child of that era growing up, I was, I guess, part of the group of children and women who were left behind to kind of pick up the pieces and suddenly regroup with that. And yeah, I'm still lucky to have my dad with us. He's just turned 80, and cool. We believe possibly the oldest helicopter pilot in New Zealand at the moment. So,
oh, really? Is he still flying?
Yes, he still has his private licence. So,
cool.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool.
Cool.
I guess jump to later on in my life, where I went back to university in my 30s. Started studying at Massey University. I started off with a degree in psychology and sociology. This was from the farm, so I am married to Dave. He's a deer farmer. We live just out of Te Anau. Quickly discovered that we had a problem with rural mental health, and that it was not only a huge problem but sorely under-researched. Hardly anything, in fact, hardly any research on the topic. So after that, I jumped into a Bachelor of Social Services in counselling so that I could actually work with people on the ground. Yeah. From that, I discovered that if you hone in on the problem of rural mental health in particular, we have a real problem with young rural men taking their own lives, so 16 to 30 years old. That became my master's research, why they are reluctant to seek help for mental health issues. A whole lot of things came from that research. One of them that I guess has spurred me on, though, is the importance of connections in communities. And so that is my PhD topic, which I'm currently halfway through. So rural community connection, how that affects mental health, and how population decline affects that. Afforestation is in my sight, so carbon forestry being so productive farmland being turned into carbon forestry.
Yeah.
The social effects of forestry, I like to say, in short.
The problem.
Along with that, I am a registered counsellor as well, so I'm only working 2 days a week at the moment because of my PhD. I'm also a mental health first aid instructor, so I take small groups of people teaching mental health literacy just in my area. So
Cool.
yeah, it's about all the important stuff.
Yeah. So huge connect to the rural community just through your partner and your own living state, and through your dad, always been around firearms and so forth. So I guess the biggest question and the biggest topic we're going to talk about today, and a lot more, we'll probably go down rabbit holes, but is something we work hard with in mental hunts, is that barrier for firearms licence holders to seek help. And what I mean by that is the fear of having your licence revoked, and the big barrier that's been created ever since 2019, when, those that don't understand, we had the Christchurch massacre, and a lot of legislations got rushed through and changed, and a lot of us, and I was a victim of it, and many others, of losing our licence, all for seeking help. Is this a barrier that you see regularly, and what are your thoughts on that at the moment?
It's absolutely a barrier that comes up, and it was one finding in my master's research as well, so I'm very unsurprised to hear that. I guess as far as March 15th goes, there needed to be some kind of action to prevent this happening again, and there has been a knee-jerk reaction, which on some level I can understand. But I think that when the laws and the regulations are being changed or decided, it's not being taken into account that this is a cultural matter. So it's cultural that for those of you that hunt, can go hunting, that you can do this together, that you can feed your family, that you can exercise pest control, all of those things. It's a little bit like saying to somebody, right, we're going to take your ability away to play rugby now. You cannot go to trainings anymore. You can't socialise with anybody that plays rugby. You definitely can't play rugby until we say so. It's a whole lifestyle.
Yeah, or because you want help.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And I know that the fear is there, but on the other hand, I'm thinking if you do manage to somehow seek help, that you will probably find that it wasn't as bad as you thought it was. So seeking help, going in early, having a plan for recovery, this is going to make it sustainable so that you can hunt. But I understand that some of the knee-jerk reaction has put fear into people. There have been negative stories in the media and stories that do reverberate around communities. It's how we are as humans.
There's a lot of people talking about situations like mine back in the day, and they bring it up on social media, and sure, it did happen, but there is a lot of things changing. There is a lot of work we're doing, a lot of work you're doing, a lot of work the government are doing to try and fix this. But those little comments that people make about don't go to the doctor, don't get help, actually are causing the problem to be bigger.
Absolutely.
At this stage. And I'm a big fan for getting help. Now, I mean, we always talk about people getting help and having a plan and all this. In reality, when you're in a dark space, that's really hard. And I guess a big part of what we're doing at Mental Hunts is to hopefully try and educate everyone, so that if you have a friend in need, that you can support them and help them, guide them through that plan, because that's the hardest thing. So people need to get their facts right around what they're telling them.
Yes.
And it is changing regularly at the moment, so it's worth keeping an eye on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's a whole societal shift going on as well that isn't just relevant to the hunting or rural community, that it is becoming something that's okay to talk about, that it is, I guess, I think that we would all be, I'm not because I'm working in the field, but a lot of people would be surprised to know that about a quarter of our population at any one time is suffering from some kind of mood disorder. So it's anxiety and depression. So if you see 4 people, it's likely one of those have got something going on. Would you ever know? Not necessarily. We have to normalise it and normalise seeking help, because these are highly treatable conditions.
Yeah, I totally agree. And you know, I spent most of my life having suicidal thoughts. I didn't want to die, but I had these thoughts all the time, these dark demons always there. And it wasn't until I finally got the help that I needed that I've managed to find a way past it. And I don't have them thoughts anymore. Yeah, I have shit days. And it was all because I got help.
Yeah.
I needed to get help. And sometimes your friends, your family, and your own thoughts ain't going to help you.
No, absolutely. And something that I often liken that to is, so when you are in that dark place, it's kind of like wandering around in a big room with no lights on. It's completely dark. You don't know what's there. It's scary. There's the unknown. There's your mind is putting things into place that may or may not be there. But actually, getting help or talking it out with somebody who's helpful and that you can trust is a little bit like turning on the light.
It is.
So it's a little bit like, I guess, if a child's afraid of the dark and they think that there's a monster in the closet or under the bed, that one thing that you would do is turn on the light on, and it's like, oh, okay, right. It was something that my mind was creating, and that's not to say if it's all in your head, it's not worthy of creating the fear that you feel, because our minds are pretty powerful machines.
Yeah, totally. Cool. So these barriers to seeking help, what are your thoughts on how we're going to break this down? What are ways that we can start chipping away at it, other than like what we're doing now, creating these conversations? Is how do we get this trust back? This is something I asked the Firearms Safety Authority. We need to get the trust back. There's a lot of distrust with the police, and there's the Firearms Safety Authority are a regulator, but they're under the police, and the police are enforcers. I'd love to hear from your perspective as a health practitioner, what your thoughts are on this, because you obviously see it come to you a lot.
Yeah. It's a really big question that doesn't have a single answer, I think, Glenn. I think that, again, the positive stories that trickle through, if there's a positive story here, there's one there, there's one there, it will start to trickle through the communities, as do the negative ones. So let's not forget that the positive ones can do the same thing. Apart from that, I think rebuilding trust, that's something that, as a mental health professional, we probably don't have a lot of agency over. This is something within the police and the Firearms Authority that I think that this is their responsibility to do that. That also will take time. It takes a long time for attitudes to shift. Look at anything over the years. Look at the way that we think about, say, family violence or alcohol abuse or anything. It's not been an overnight change, the way that we think about and the way that we get help and seek help. It's going to be a slow burn, but it's one that needs to happen. Yeah,
it's going to take time. Like, we talk about stigma and we need to change stigma. I don't know what your thoughts are, but I think stigma's slowly breaking down, and I don't know whether it's just because I'm always talking about mental health myself, and it's just a topic that comes up because I'm around it. Do you feel that we're starting to make headway as far as stigma? We talk of stigma. There's still a massive.
Yeah. I do wonder, I know that I'm potentially in a bit of a vacuum. I'm rural, I work with rural people. I feel like that in that respect we are potentially a little bit behind our urban counterparts, where it's probably more visible, there's more help centres, there's more mental health professionals. But for us here, rural, wherever you are, that's rural, it is far between. It's unfortunately, getting help is more difficult for rural people. This is part of our rural-urban divide. I think that for rural people, that we also have these cultural values, I guess, that we hold really strong and dear to our heart. And I'm not saying they're negative at all. So things like reliability and dependency and stoicism and being capable of doing the job, and these are all really great values to have as a person who works in agriculture, or even for people who like to hunt and like to get outside, but they don't have to exist on their own. You could you can, and it is changing slowly, you can incorporate things like caring for yourself and your family are important, and that could be a spur on to seek help. There are other more important values as well that can go along with that. They don't exist on their own.
Yeah, yeah. And I guess for me, on another note, a lot of people think that with what we're doing with the firearms stuff and the mental health stuff, it's all men based. Obviously, the rural community is a very male dominated industry, just like construction. But by no means is anything we're doing is men focused. I personally think it's a human problem in every aspect. Is there a big mental health crisis with the females within the rural community as much? Or is it predominantly a male issue that you see? Just to give me a bit of clarity, I suppose, on...
Yeah.
I mean, because I push it in every angle. A lot of people assume it's a men thing, but it's...
Yeah. Yes, so you're right. It is an industry that is dominated by males. I don't have any statistics on how that sits at the moment. However, I know that is also slowly changing. My daughter's a shepherd, so I get to see that side of it as well. As far as mental health statistics go, we know that just give you a couple of suicide statistics, but for every 4 men who take their own lives in this country, there is 1 female. However, if you look into the agricultural industry, that actually jumps up to 97% are males.
Are males,
yeah,
right.
Depending on the type of farming. So dairy farmers are the worst statistics, which is huge. And that is why there has been the focus on male mental health in the agricultural industry. It does not mean at all that female mental health doesn't matter, but there are different dynamics there. And I think that goes back to the values that I spoke about before of people in agriculture, but also for men in general.
Yeah. Health practitioners. We talk about health practitioners, GPs, counsellors, psychiatrists as registered health practitioners that have that ability to notify the Firearms Safety Authority. I have not a beef, but a bit of an issue with GPs having that ability. And I think there's a lot of GPs that have this same opinion about, they're not qualified, I guess. They're not trained in mental health to be having these discussions and notifying. What are your thoughts on the roles and responsibility that's been thrown at GPs as far as the firearms licensing and notifying for someone's fit and proper status?
So obviously I'm not a GP, but from what I can understand, we have got a bit of a shortage of GPs in this country, and the ones that we do have are often overworked. The appointments are booked 10 minutes, appointment upon appointment upon appointment. So they cannot spend a whole lot of time assessing and being with somebody, unfortunately. And they do have to balance risk on whether there's risk enough there to notify or revoke that licence. Are they qualified to do that? Like you just said, though, that's not their specialty. I'm thinking that perhaps a more sustainable way to come at this might be that if a patient goes to a GP and there are mental health issues and there is a grey area, and I believe that grey area could be very large, that there is the option there to refer on for an actual assessment. Maybe it's with a psychologist/psychiatrist. Probably a psychologist is easier to reach in this country.
Which they're probably going to go down anyway if they're in there with mental health issues.
Potentially, yeah. Again, huge shortage in that.
Yeah.
But it needs to be somebody that is qualified to assess and diagnose, not necessarily treat. This is an assessment that we're talking about here.
Yeah.
The treatment could then go out to further supports, counsellors, psychotherapists, things like that. So,
I guess my concern and many other people's concern is that whole risk adversity thing. Like, there's a lot of people that just don't understand. Like, when I say people, a lot of doctors, GPs don't understand, haven't got the time to get all the answers about the Firearms Safety Authority legislation, which is massive. So they're like, mental health, firearms, notify.
Yeah.
Not my problem. And it just worries me that too much of that's going on. More education needs to be done with health practitioners.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm not sure that I'm sure that there are GPs that fall outside of this generalisation, but I'm not sure that GPs are actually understanding what a massive impact this has on a person's life to get your firearms licence revoked.
Yep.
And in many cases, and certainly in my clients, people that I've seen, going out for a hunt is one thing that can better a person's mental health. So it's the physical activity, it's the connection with others, it's getting in touch with nature, it's using your senses to be in the moment. It's all of the things that we know backed up by the
meditation.
data.
It is.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So is that risk in taking that licence away and therefore taking all of those things away, is that actually helpful? I'm not so sure.
Yeah. And of course, and I'm all in agreement, we need to have rules, and there needs to be rules in the instance that someone does need it taken. But generally speaking, if someone's just having a little minor depressive disorder, a bit like myself, I was just experimenting with medication because I'd got off alcohol, there was no risk to anyone. Yes, I'd had suicidal thoughts, but no one ever asked me the question, did I want to die? Because the answer was no. And I wouldn't, and anyone that goes in to see a counsellor obviously wants to be fit and proper. They're doing all the things to keep themselves fit and proper as according to the legislation, but in respect to their own life, they want to be well. So they're taking the right steps. I think throwing a punishment at them for doing all the right things is a really wrong direction to go. But having those rules in the background and ready to pounce on them if you need to is good. I just think there's been a lot of wrong ways of going about it with people that just, they got thrown this whole thing. I think doctors, GPs, counsellors, psychiatrists are doing an amazing job. They're slammed at the moment. You guys have got so much work on your hands, especially since COVID.
Oh yeah, yes.
So I get it. So, and I also understand why they'd be risk averse. It's like, one more thing, I don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Let's just give it to them to deal with.
Oh,
not
absolutely.
knowing that it's going to drag someone through the ringer.
Yeah, and I absolutely commend anybody that would go in and seek help at that early point. It doesn't have to be with the GP. It could be, one of our helplines. It could be a counsellor. It could be a psychotherapist. It could be somebody that I guess is a registered professional, because you're going to get confidentiality. You're going to get ethics that a person has to abide by. But you've made a really good point in that if you are struggling with something at the moment, that you do have a low mood, and maybe that goes on for a week or 2 weeks or a month, maybe it's triggered by something, maybe you've had a relationship breakup, maybe you're having financial problems, that actually you're a normal human being.
Exactly.
That actually all of these emotions are normal. We have this, I very much think this is a Western philosophy or ideal that we must be happy at all times. We see, don't worry, be happy on T-shirts. We see good vibes only on people's walls. And
you're allowed to feel shit.
Oh, of course you are.
Yeah.
Our emotions are like the weather, even as we've sat here.
Without the professional help that I got, I couldn't see that.
Yeah.
And I know exactly what you're talking about. I always felt like I needed to be happy, and if I wasn't, things were bad.
Yeah.
It's only now that I've learnt to manage that I'm allowed to have a bad day.
Of course.
And tomorrow's a new day. I'm just got to get through today.
Yeah.
And I didn't see that until I had it put in front of me by someone that saw what was going on.
Yeah. I think society has a lot to answer for there. We could talk about that all day, but we have about 84 emotions as human beings, and to just expect happiness and switch the others off, you're going to set yourself up for failure.
A lot of people are scared to go to the doctor with their firearms licences, and they're like, I'm just trying to keep a clear record so that I can get my licence back, or my renewal's up, so I want to keep a clear record. And I've tried to explain to people that these days, with the new Firearms Safety Authority and the regulator, it actually works positively for you if you see a GP or a counsellor regularly. If you're on medication, it's not a bad thing. It's not a 10 against your name. It depends on what medication you're on and for what circumstance, obviously. It actually works in a positive aspect that you've got a plan in place, you're keeping yourself maintained, you see someone regularly, you're under good supervision and you tick all the boxes as far as your safe firearms and they're locked away and everything like that. So,
Yep.
Are you noticing people coming in more based on that, or is it? I feel it's not, but
Yeah, I do have quite a few maintenance clients, and I love seeing them. They I guess that's more sort of future focused coaching type work, I guess, which is really great, because we do deal with some fairly high level cases as well. So it's great to have those. I'm not going to say low level, but the ones with lesser seriousness. We can't see all high level people, we'd just burn out. So it actually makes our job really enjoyable, and which also busts a myth too that I hear a lot about, oh no, I can't see a mental health professional, I'm taking up a space from someone who's more needy, or I'm not bad enough, or no, we want to see you at that level. Absolutely. Yeah.
And that takes me to something else about, there's a lot of requirements now to get an assessment from a health practitioner, get an assessment from and exactly what you just said. I personally think that is taking the place, but it's a balance. We do need it, but is there another way to get those assessments, you think? Or do we have to take the place of a needy person that needs to actually get the help, as opposed to someone who just needs a letter to prove what they already know?
Absolutely not. If you are a mental health professional, you should not be, and normally are not, judging the level of, I'm going to say, seriousness, because that's not what we base our work on. There are crisis services, and there are there are higher level services. There's most of us work in the sort of everyday space though, which is things like that, which are human problems. You're a human if you're having that and need that. So
totally. So if you had anything you could tell someone that had a friend that was in need right now, and they didn't know how to do it, they had no training, let's see if we can give some people some pointers. Obviously they're not going to be professionals. What would be your main piece of advice for someone wanting to help someone else that they're worried about and under firearms and everything else?
And this is the kind of stuff you would learn on a mental health first aid course as well, as you know, Glenn. The very best thing that I could say is build a relationship. Build the relationship, build trust over time. It doesn't have to be barreling and talking about mental health. It's just creating somewhere that you feel actually okay hanging out with, that, and they feel okay to hang out with you. It will come out if it needs to come out. Know what's kind of available in your area. If you've got your own personal story that you felt comfortable to share, that's great too. Or if you know somebody else who sought help and it was successful, share that as well. Choose your time and place. So clearly you wouldn't want to be doing that when they're rushing out or in front of their family or anything like that. It's depending on the person, it's an intensely private topic, so you wouldn't want to create any more kind of embarrassment or put them in an uncomfortable position. But even if they say, no, I'm good, I don't need anything, there's nothing wrong with me, then you will continue to build that trust and build the relationship, and at some point when it's ready, they will know that you are there, you're ready, you are willing to help, because you've voiced as much. So and just like you say, listening is a lot. Some people think that they've got to actually fix the person, and it's a big misconception. And people are scared that if they do the wrong thing, they're going to be the blame. It's, if someone goes that far, it's not your fault. And trying to understand that just listening is all you need to do. I had it all the time with people. Every now and again, I'd sort of open up, especially when I was drunk. And I'd usually wake up and go, oh, I was just drunk, don't worry about it, and get on with my life. But you'd sort of indirectly reach out for help, and they'd just be full of what you need to do is this. Oh, you need to do this. You need to go do this. Oh, what you need to, you just need to not worry about this. It's like, no, you just need to shut up and listen. And it never helped. No. Trying to get told what to do. I think that that it's a very human thing though, to try and fix people and to give information or ways to solve the problem.
Especially in rural and
Yes.
construction, we fix
Yeah.
things. That's what we do.
Well, actually,
Yeah.
yeah. But the reason that we do that is actually because we're humans that are averse to pain. So we know not to touch hot fire, we know not to touch sharp things, we avoid pain at all costs, but we actually do it emotionally as well. We're very attuned to people's pain. We are empathetic creatures, but when we feel another person's pain and we just sit with them in that's very uncomfortable for some people. That's essentially what's behind it. Some people might just want solutions. Just ask them. Say, do you just want me to listen, or are you wanting actual solutions here? They'll tell you.
Do you want me to get you somewhere?
Yes.
You to talk to someone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the other thing is that I really want to tell people to avoid toxic positivity as well. So that's coming and saying, yeah, but look at your life. You know, you've got a nice vehicle and you've got a good job, and you know you're good. What have you got to be sad about?
Yeah.
And they're not going to say, oh yeah, true.
Yeah.
I'm going to feel good
Just
now.
makes it more confusing. To them.
Exactly.
Like,
it makes
and why
you feel,
do I feel like this?
Yes,
Then?
it makes you feel like you're not justified in feeling what you are, and that's actually invalidating, although it comes from a good place.
Yeah. So how long have you been practicing?
So I have been studying for 11 years for mental health, and I've been practicing for about 6 years as a registered counsellor.
How many licences have been revoked?
None of mine.
Yeah.
Mm.
And how many of those people that had firearms are still here?
100%.
There you go.
Yeah.
They're the numbers we need to hear.
Yeah.
And, you know, all because they've taken that brave step, asked for help, got the help they needed, and life's great.
Yep, absolutely.
I have met some people that have actually seen you. We won't mention names.
Yep.
But it's so positive, the outcomes. And the firearms were a fear.
Yeah,
so yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
Because I guess let's go right back to when Christchurch and everything happened, and we hit someone hit the big red button and panic, and all of a sudden, because 2016 when I went to the doctor, the question never even got asked about my firearms, and that was when I was in my worst state.
Wow.
Like really bad, like it was the end of the road for me. 2019, I was just experimenting to see whether it was alcohol or drugs that made me feel better or worse. And that's when I had the big, you've got to take your license, it's the law, rah, rah, rah. What happened? How did GPs and health practitioners find out about this information? What did they get sent an email? Did they get told, this is what you've now got to do? You've got to take everyone's gun that says mental health.
Yeah, I didn't hear or see anything, to be honest. Again, I'm not a GP, so whether they got anything, I'm not sure. But I think probably collectively as a nation, we probably just went, oh, okay, firearms, we have to be careful. And so, I mean, it was tragic. It was a huge loss of life. So I think that everything, the toys got chucked out of the cot and everything just went up in the air, and everything was kind of reassessed.
From what I've noticed, even from police department regions to region, the stories I hear are so inconsistent. Like there was no real blanket rule or this is what we're going to do. Everyone's situation was so badly handled in many different ways and aspects. There was no one rule. Yeah. And same with GPs. I mean, I remember I got told by law he has to notify. Well, that just is not the truth. It's it's a consider to notify, as you know. You don't have to.
It's subjective. Yeah. Absolutely.
So I guess trying to get a lot of health practitioners this information, it's a massive undertaking, especially in the climate with how busy they are.
Yeah.
It's frustrating to know what to do. Like when you know, I don't know. I just find when someone's going to go and get help and take that massive step to get help, law-abiding citizens are getting punished as opposed to the person that's going to go and do what this idiot did in Christchurch. They're not going to go and get help. They're not going to knock on your door and say, hey, I feel like going to a school and shooting up. That's just And sure, that person needs their guns taken, but those situations are never going to come. So the good people that are keeping the country afloat with farming or, hunting guides or pest controllers or just average Joe that wants to go hunting are getting punished when they're doing all the right things, they're locking their guns up, they're ticking all the boxes, they've been vetted to crap, and we get punished. It's just...
definitely feels that way. Yeah, absolutely.
The problem, yes, you're not going to get help. People aren't getting help. That is a problem. My fear, and the reason I've pushed mental hunts, is to try over time build this trust back and educate people, which we're working on as we speak. Because my fear is in 3 to 5, 10 years time, when these people that aren't getting help now don't get the help they need, manifested over time, it's going to get worse. And then these people are going to go and renew their firearms license, and this big vetting system that has been made to be robust and keep everyone safe, they're going to tick the box that says, no, I don't have any mental health issues, because technically they don't. They haven't been to the doctor, they've not been diagnosed, they've never had support, they've not been on medication, which they probably should have, and their small manifested depressive disorder has now become a major depressive disorder, untreated. And then they're going to get their firearms license back. There's instantly a big problem with the vetting system, hence why I'm really pushing to... I get we've got to have a good vetting system, but the way they've done it at the moment isn't right, and it's going to come back and bite people, because all of a sudden we're going to have a massive amount of people with a big depressive disorder getting their firearms back.
It's scary to think of it that way.
And massive amount of people. Our suicide rate's not going to go down, it's going to go up, and it's not going to be because of a firearm doing the job. It's going to be because they haven't got the help they needed, and they can't bear life because they've not managed to get the support they need.
That's right. That was highly treatable and available for them to get, but it's been completely bypassed.
So, and I mean, you and I have spoken for a long time. I guess this is why we've connected, because the passion about this firearms thing is the same, and mine's through a lived experience and yours is from a professional level, and being able to bounce ideas off you has been great for me. And it's definitely a concern, and I still, although we're doing a lot in this space, I don't have the answer, and I guess you don't either. If the answer to mental health was that easy, it wouldn't be a problem.
Exactly.
But I really hope with the work you're doing in your counselling, the studies that you're now doing in rural, which wasn't there. Only thing we had was statistics, which were obviously high. Hopefully over a period of time we can change this. And
I hope so. And part of what I also do, which I didn't mention at the start, and not to plug what I do or too much like that, but I am training social services at the moment, various social services through webinars on how to relate to rural people and people in agriculture, understand the farming year, to understand what it's like to be rural and isolated, and some of the particular issues that rural people face, and firearms is a part of that. I think that when you understand the cultural the cultural context of the topic, it can help our physical and our mental health professionals understand people as well that it affects.
A lot of farmers used to, back in the day, go to the pub on a Friday night, and that was their social time, but even that's even harder to do now for obvious reasons. Drink driving's frowned on, and so it should be. Causes a lot of deaths, probably more than firearms. You're probably right. It was the bad old days, the good old days. I'm not sure. No, you're absolutely right. The people that needed that connection are those ones that would come together and meet at the country pubs and that. So now they just sit at home and ponder on what the government keeps throwing at them for rules and water rights and
along with that as
and
well.
Then a drought and then everything else.
So rural communities have had to get a little bit more clever, I guess, and organised about doing this, and this is coming into a wee bit of my research here, but it's very relevant, I think, that we used to have the pub, but now I guess the focus is on community connection through things like young farmers, rural women's, even rural support trusts have been really good, and any kind of community intervention that puts at the forefront of your mind the ways that help us. So connection with people, moving your body, giving back to the community, being in nature, anything that kind of upholds that, along with mental health literacy. So however that looks. I teach mental health first aid. That is about knowing what to look for and how to help a person,
Yeah.
but that's going to help also the people themselves going to the course. So
Yeah.
learning about mental health as
Yeah.
well, any of those things will be
Yeah.
helpful.
We put so much emphasis on health and safety, and I talk construction because that's the industry I'm in at the moment, but 10 people a year die from workplace accidents, and yet 53 a year are dying from suicide, and yet we put so much of an emphasis on health and safety and not the suicide prevention.
Yes.
And this is where I really encourage people to do your mates in construction training, or mental health 101s, or your first aid courses, or good yarns. That, they're all very beneficial, all different. They're all run differently, but I've done pretty much all of them, and every single one I get a tool, or I meet someone who says something that I go, that's such a good idea. There's so many, and you also connect with people that you then have a contact. I'm still messaging people from about 7 years ago that I went and did a course with, and just check in and keep an eye on them, and
That's pretty
and they
cool.
do the same with us.
Yeah.
So you do end up getting connections through doing these courses.
Absolutely, yeah, and they're a safe topic. So because you're doing that, I guess, to look out for others, and it's not for yourself, it's a safe topic to talk about. Whereas if you were going and doing a direct intervention on mental health topics, probably nobody would turn up because it's not a safe topic. So that's how it can have a huge reverberating effect. It should be in health and safety plans.
Yep, I totally agree.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. There's so much emphasis on safe talk, and I'm all for safe talk, and I do agree with it, but I also believe we've got to start talking about suicide and educating on it, and not be so scared about the conversation. Because I mean, even last night my wife and I, we sat there and watched an episode, and it was actually the Neverland, the Michael Jackson cases of, man, if there wasn't enough things in there to trigger people. I mean, if we want to talk about safe talk, everything's all over the internet, everything's all over. So if we're not, if we can have access to it through Netflix and everything we watch with no explanation as to how to deal with it, and yet we're not allowed to educate them, we're not allowed to say this on TV, we're not allowed to talk about suicide, and you can't say this on the radio, and it's like, what a load of crap. We need to start talking about it, and we need to openly talk about it. There's times and places and ages and things we've got to be a bit careful how we do it, but I do believe we just need to put it on the table. It's real, it happens. 600 a year in the country are dying. Yeah,
and there's plenty of research that tells us that talking about it doesn't make it more likely. In fact, it reduces the likelihood of suicide taking place. It's a little bit like I said back at the start about the monster in the room, turning on the light to see what we're actually dealing with. That's what I liken it to.
Yeah. And I use my own example. I mean, like I said earlier, I've had suicidal thoughts most of my life. I've never been to a friend's funeral that has taken their life. I've never heard people talk about it and felt like, oh, now I got to go and take my life. It's not how. Well, I had my own demons and battles and thoughts and things and traumas and whatever else going on in my own life to make me feel those feelings. Going there, sure, it made me sad, but it didn't make me suicidal. It was, I don't know what it was, but that's why it's such a complicated illness. And,
perhaps part of that is seeing what's left behind and seeing what happens to families, what happens to communities. When somebody takes their life, it's pretty full on.
Yeah. I have to say I've been very, very lucky with my wife, and she has stood by me from start to finish, and I owe my life to her pretty much. And once again, this is what I say to people: don't give up on someone if they're having a hard time. It's really, some people just don't know how to handle it, and they just have to walk away, and that doesn't help someone sometimes. But every situation's different. But I was very fortunate to have the support from my wife, and although it was hard at times for her, she stood by me, and finally I've got to a happy place and we're out on the other side. So keep fighting for them and working with them. She never told me what I needed to do. I drank too much, and I don't think I ever had her tell me I need to stop drinking. She'd every now and again to remind me that I'm probably drinking more than I used to. And I had my own guilt trips, so to get sober was a decision I had to make.
Absolutely.
And I had to hit rock bottom. And I don't know how she knew it, but she just knew she couldn't. The day she'd tell me if I had to, you've drank too much last night, I'd be like, cool, I'm going to the pub. It's like, don't even go down that road. But it was not a good
No. So that's a really good example of what I was saying before, and you had that with your wife, just that constant supportive presence, just building the relationship, building the trust, which you already had, but always there for you no matter what, and accepting that this is what you're going through, whether you like it or not. This is actually the reality of what we're dealing with. So
and when it comes to friends, and like we talk about on the hill, talking to your mates out on the hill when you're out hunting and whatever, that's great. But back it up when you get home. You know, when it's private and quiet, go knock on their door and see how they're going. Say that you weren't doing too well out in the hill, how are you getting on? Or, you know, can I do anything to help you?
Yeah, and that's the other thing, is that help can look like so many things. It could be practical, like maybe they are struggling to run their dogs, or maybe they've got things that need to be returned to shops or to places they just haven't got around to, or it could be just practical things. And if that's what you're good at and how you can help, just be that person in the background. It will free up their capacity to do other things for themselves as well. So
awesome. So we talked about how advice and tips and pointers to help someone else, and I know from first hand, when you're in that dark place, making any decisions is really hard. If someone's watching this right now and trying to get some answers, and they don't know what to do, and what advice have you got for someone who's in a dark place right now? You know, it's all well and good to say, go get help, reach out, but we all know how hard that is.
Couple of thoughts. So one is that whatever is going on at the moment, it's probably temporary. It feels very like it's going to be your life for the rest of your life, but it is probably a temporary problem that can be solved, that can be overcome. The other thing is that nobody ever regretted it. No one that I've ever seen through my work or just as a person in the world has ever regretted going in and getting some kind of assistance, whatever that looks like.
Good way of putting it.
Yeah. Most things can be overcome. You're not broken. You're stuck. And maybe sometimes you just need some help just to get past, just to bump that needle.
Yeah, 100%. And once again, I 100% agree. Hence why I push this narrative of seeking support or helping your friends if you see them in a dark place. That little bit of education you get, it's amazing how quickly you start seeing it in people. Once you go to one of them courses, you start looking at people and psychoanalyzing them a little bit, but you all of a sudden go, oh, far out, maybe that's why they're so angry.
Yeah. It's like what you see can't be unseen, but in a good way, almost. Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, there's so many things. There's so many things that we could do to help somebody. Yeah.
So moving forward from here, as far as the firearms side of things go in the legislation, is there anything that you'd like to see? I mean, I've got some ideas of my own, and I've put them forward in the consultation. Is there something that you think needs to be changed, and how we could do better in this space, and as far as legislation and because I know we need to have it, we can't take it away, but what could we do better?
So I'm thinking that those that are in charge of this legislation or have some kind of have sway in there need to learn some cultural context about how important this is. This is not just people wanting to shoot animals in the head for fun. This is something that's part of people's lives. It's actually been part of people's lives for tens of thousands of years. There are so many reasons that we do it, that you hunt. It's important to you. Like I keep saying, it gets you moving, it gets you out with people, it gets you in the outdoors, it will get you out of bed and off your device, and there's so many things about it. So to understand the importance of the benefits of it, because at the moment I'm not hearing any kind of regard to that in any of the legislation.
Yeah, exactly. You're spot on. I think of two things. Work licenses. You know, people go and kill people drink driving, or just get done drink driving, and they can get a work license. Well, we know drink drivers kill more people, and I would love to see some sort of opportunity for farmers to say, okay, between the hours of that such and such and such, you can do your job. That's something I've thought of. And the other thing is that just those proactive steps without actually being law or legislation, you know, if there's someone on the farm or someone having a hard time, what are your thoughts on having a central hub in the farm that one person manages the firearms space and everyone's got to go through them to get the firearms? It's just, like I say, it's only if there's an instance where someone's having a hard time. It shows that farmer's being proactive, everyone's supporting that person, because a lot of the suicides are usually late at night when people are intoxicated, no one's around, they're lonely, they've got access to the safe. You take those things away in a work environment, I mean, is it giving another responsibility to the manager, the farmer? I don't know, but just little proactive steps, I think.
Yeah, and there's no one size fits all. So perhaps that would be a really great solution for maybe bigger operations, or there's all kinds of possibilities. But just actually talking about it and looking at it as in, this is a three-dimensional issue. It's not a flat piece of paper with nothing else going on. There's actually a lot to consider here that I don't think has all been considered until now.
I don't think we're ever going to get the answer. There never will be the answer.
Yeah,
you made
it's
a
a
good
jigsaw
point.
puzzle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like you made a good point earlier, that it's not one person's, you know, we're always quick to blame someone or something. This is just an issue we need to face head on and work with it individually and get it done. I remember a young fellow that came to me, and it was really positive at the Seeker Show, and told me that he was scared to get his license, and he ended up he got told by his friends he was never going to get it. He had PTSD and was on medication, and so he'd sort of given up, and saw our episode with the Firearms Safety Authority and realised things were changing. So he applied, and he had to get an assessment, fine, told he was on his medication, yep, sweet, and he had no issues at all.
How great.
And it's all because he was seeing a psychiatrist and a counsellor or whatever. He was on medication, he had a plan in place, it was managed, he was managed with treatments, and that's all that the authorities wanted to see. And
he'll get better.
Yeah.
He will improve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even more now that he can go do the one thing he loves. So, you know,
which will help him get better through all of the things it does.
I can't, and you would 100% agree, I'd imagine, I can't emphasise enough about the importance of getting help and not fearing that to lose your licence, because, you know, if you are in a dark place, and once again I always say it, when you are really in a dark place, hunting isn't that fun. Your head's not in it.
That's
you have
right.
a hard time. You really need to get in a good place to enjoy the things you enjoy.
Yeah. Which is kind of an irony, right? That you would not get help for something that you want to do, but then by not getting help takes away the desire or the joy of doing that. So it kind of cancels itself out, and nobody's enjoying anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we're pretty much getting close to the end. Where can people find out more about what you're up to and what's next for you? You say you're only practicing 2 days a week. How long does the PhD go for? Where can they find you? Are you taking more clients on, or are you full?
So I'm only working a couple of days a week. I do see people all over the country online. I do have a bit of a wait list. You can find me on Instagram. So I am ag_mental_health_NZ. So ag mental health NZ. I'm sure that you'll link anyway when you post this podcast.
Definitely.
I do have a website which I barely need to update, kathrynwright.co.nz. PhD, hopefully I'll be done within 3 years, and I'm halfway there, just about halfway. So I'm about to head out and do some research. I'm just doing my ethics at the moment. So
cool.
Happy to help anybody.
And do you do Zoom?
Yes, absolutely.
Consults? Most people do these days, don't they?
Absolutely. One great thing out of lockdown was that we had to get online. I wasn't comfortable with it at the start, but actually people, especially rural people, you can feasibly get anyone anywhere in the country that you never have to see. You don't have to travel anywhere. I have talked to that many people in tractor cabs and in sheds and just wherever you are, and it's where you're comfortable, and it works so well. Yeah.
And you can just pull over for 5 minutes, half an hour, deal with it where you are.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
technology.
very accessible.
Good.
Yeah.
All right, well, I thank you so much for coming on. If there was one thing that you would like listeners to take away from today, or what we've talked about, and the firearms and the seeking help, what would it be? Is there any one particular thing, or probably a whole heap of things? But
Gosh, yeah, there's a whole lot of things really, and it's something I've probably already mentioned, but I just want to say it again, is that that mood disorders, so anxiety, depression, hugely common. So around 1 in 4 people will be suffering from some kind of mood disorder at any one time, but these are highly treatable. There are so many things that we can do. There are so many different kinds of therapy, different kinds of medication, even just changing some lifestyle factors like diet or sleep, or they're hugely treatable. You do not have to suffer in silence.
no, yep, 100% agree. And
Yeah.
thank you so much for all the hard work you're doing, and the
You're
upskilling
welcome.
and studying you're doing. We need more people like you, supporting not just everyday people, but those that are fearing to get help just because we own a firearms license. So
Yeah,
thank you for fighting for us as well.
do my best.
Thanks Kathryn. If you're enjoying what you're watching, guys, and you're enjoying the content, please jump over and subscribe on our YouTube channel and follow along. We've got plenty more coming.